And boom, we're live. And welcome to another edition of Our Life is People. Well, it's kind of like a sort of second coming of Hayze, man. We sort of started this off last week, had a bit of interruption. So, well, welcome back, dude. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you doing yourself?
I'm really good. Now, nice hot day in here in Scotland. Like I said last time, it's nice to have a good day. Now, like I said before we went live, I really want to pick this up where we kind of got cut off last time, and you were sort of sharing upon your reflections of being in America at the moment. So, do you want to sort of speak upon that a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, the culture over here is certainly something that I'm finding it hard to get used to. A lot of things are done differently here. Let's just say.
Okay, in the sense of what have you noticed there is, because it's one of the things I speak to a lot of Americans about. This is one of the things I want to speak to you about. I mean, Americans are always surprised by the amount of CCT coverage and the amount of surveillance we get in the UK. So when you sort of say that things are done a lot differently there, you mean in the sense of the authorities are a lot different or the people are a lot different? What exactly is he speaking upon?
Okay, so what I've noticed is they're a lot more mob-handed when dealing with situations over here. Obviously they've got a certain degree of allowance for things like guns and stuff over here, which we don't have in England at all. So every situation could potentially be a life or death situation. So police are really mob-handed in everything they do here. Driving down the road, seeing 5 cars for one guy. It's a little bit extreme, but that's the life out here. That's the norm.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's sort of like I really kind of want to intertwine this with you, and I don't know how much you want to speak upon it, but from your biography and people who maybe were watching this, and it will say, hailing from Southampton, but anyone who kind of knows the English accent, so no, that's not a Southampton accent. So let's take it all the way back. Where did you sort of start all this off, mate? Because that's obviously, you sort of started off in a different place, and there's quite a sort of you can pick up from some of your lyrics. There's obviously a kind of a story there, and I don't know how much you want to go upon that, but where did this sort of the whole journey of sort of stepping up, becoming to where you are now, where did this all begin for you?
It all started in Liverpool. That's where I was born, and that's where I spent my very early days. And then my mum moved us down to the south coast, and obviously I grew up music to things like that. I never used to listen to hip hop really as a kid. I used to listen to soul music, and so I'd listen to Diana Ross, to Supreme, to Temptations, all the things like that. It was only in my teens that I actually got introduced to hip hop music. I think the first track I actually listened to, the first hip hop track, is Prince Eagle, and that changed my life, man. It was that point that I was like, wow, okay, this isn't pop music. It's not rock. It's not heavy on the ears like as rock music is. I was like, this, and it kind of speaks my language. Do you know what I mean? And so that's when I fell in love with hip hop, and that's when I started writing.
So you sort of started this in Southampton. I mean, taking it a step backwards. I mean, someone who moved from I'm a Cockney boy, and I moved up to the opposite direction. I moved from London to Leeds, and I've got experiences about that. So how did you find it? Just quickly on that, I think. How did you find it from the transformation from being Liverpool, which is a very, again, maybe you want to speak about what, for people who maybe listen to this don't understand what Liverpool is, because it's got a very unique kind of soul about the place. So how did you find that transformation from going from there to Southampton, obviously where you're sticking out as an accent, and how did you find that as informative years of your life?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? There's the best way to say it is obviously, the further up north you get, the colder it gets, right? Like, you'll know this now, coming from London, moving to Scotland, it gets colder the further north you go, right? But the people get warmer the further north you go. So I went from a place where strangers in the street would say, "Hello, mate, come on in," or whatever like that, to the South Coast where people wouldn't even acknowledge you if you bumped into them. Do you know what I mean? So coming from, I mean, yeah, you're right. Liverpool's unique. There's such a magic there because it's a poor town. You know what I mean? Liverpool fell on hard times, and what I've found throughout my entire life, and that's why I love Detroit so much, being here, is because poor people give more than rich people do. They give so much more than rich people do. You know, the poor people of Liverpool, they can't give you finance. They don't have that, but they'll welcome you into their home. They'll feed you and make sure you're not left out. Rich people in London that I've come across don't tend to do that unless there's a financial benefit for them. They won't just do it because it's the right thing. So yes, the culture shock was crazy moving down to the South Coast. The further south you went, the colder the people went.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you speak upon that and I've done, it's one of my sort of, I have a very much an interest in this, and I think a lot of this stems from the Liverpool culture and what you're speaking about, particularly in Liverpool, because I think it's particularly relevant because it's a port town. But a lot of what you speak upon like, sharing, and like you say, you treat almost, it's like a family honor to have someone in your house and treat them like, like you would do if it was your brother and stuff. That stems back to an old Irish tradition, which is an old Gaelic tradition, which is a time before all the sort of state came in and they informed all these laws. And I think that has a lot to do with Liverpool, because there's obviously a lot of mandatory migration between Ireland and Liverpool and stuff like this. And I think it's like you said, it's something that you notice when the further you go up north, and like I say, it shapes people. Now, one of the things that, again, when you spoke upon then about the sort of the difference between Liverpool and Southampton, and one of the things that struck me about listening to some of your lyrics and about just what I pick up from listening to your stuff and watching your stuff, and I think it again is a synergy to Liverpool itself as a city. There's a fighting spirit you have. There's that sense of injustice which goes along with Liverpool as itself. It's been which relates a lot to Leeds as well. A lot of the north has been really kind of injustified by politics and the money and the flow, and particularly in Liverpool. And you can pick this up in your persona and what you're giving out. You've got that core in your guts, that kind of like, no, I'm going to fight every step and I'm going to fight for what's right.
We had to go out and fight for every penny, for every inch of position that we had. So coming up from the estates and things like that, that's bred into you. Do you know what I mean? No one wants to grow up poor. No one ever thinks they're going to land on this planet poor and struggling, but it builds backbone. It makes you a fighter.
Yeah, particularly, and like I said, I think that's particularly around Liverpool itself, because I think there's something particular. And every Scouser, for want of a better word, I've ever met has that same kind of no, I'm going to fight this, because I don't know, it's intrinsic to Liverpool itself. There is a very much thing about the city itself, which there's obviously the Hillsborough stories, and there's the injustice of the docks, and there's a lot of very much a kind of fighting spirit that you see, particularly in Liverpool, that you don't really sort of see in other cities in the UK.
That's strange, mate. That's strange. See, I obviously, yes, being from Liverpool, I mean, we're already working with the shitty end of the stick as far as how people see us. Do you know what I mean? People look at Liverpool and go, bit rough there, bit poor there, don't go there. Do you know what I mean? So we're already fighting an uphill battle as soon as we land. Do you know what I mean? We've got community, because it's kind of like Scousers in general look at each other like they all outside of Liverpool look at us like we're less. So let's prove them wrong. Let's prove that we're more. Do you know what I mean? Let's not live up to their stereotypes. Like, my cousins are doctors and lawyers. Do you know what I mean? They come from nothing. They come from absolutely nothing, but they refuse to let that be, that's not going to make them who they are.
Yeah,
so that's it, man. That's like spirit.
Yeah, you're right, and I think this is one of the things you see, and you know, and I've been fortunate enough, and you're speaking upon now. You've been in Detroit, and you're over there in America at the moment. You see this a lot in a lot of cities. There's always, I think, there's a divide. In most cities, usually the West-East divide. You have the rich people on one side, and they have their bubble life. It's all shopping malls and taxis and restaurants, and
Oh, yeah.
on the other side, there's where all the music and the arts and all this comes from. But what you do notice is what I'm saying. It's very
Yeah,
much
man.
around these industrial cities. Glasgow's the same, Leeds is the same, and it's kind of. I think we're living in this. I don't know how you view it, but I think we're living in a time where, right now, all what I'm talking about, the east side of the creativity of most cities, isn't really kind of spoken and reflected upon. But that I think is changing, because I think there's so much creativity that's coming out of the streets, if you want to call it a better word, that at the moment
Oh, yeah.
isn't
No,
really
mate,
given a
you're
wider.
right. Yeah, man. No, you're totally right. I mean, it's kind of like a, you know, because and musicians are being given such status nowadays, like, you know, to the point where back in the days of the blues and things like that, musicians were paid a couple of dollars, like they were paid like staff. Do you know what I mean? Now we're being paid a lot more. Let's just say a lot more, because of the prestige of being a musician. You know, and it's like Hollywood. This is the best way. This is the best way Lowe explains it to me. It's like Hollywood. Everyone wants to be the guy up on the TV screen. They never think about the guy who leaves the camera and goes home to his normal life.
Mm.
You know, they glorify what they see on the screen without any regard for who they actually are in real life. And
Yeah, and
that's
this
the
is.
same with music. It gives people from the street the chance to make real money off of their art, because these people with money want to be us. That's the reality of it. They want to be us. They want to feed off our energy because it makes them feel a type of way. Do you know what I mean? And that's incredible. That's great. If you've grown up poor and next thing you know, a millionaire wants to bloody buy 1,000 copies of your album or something like that, or wants to finance a tour for you. You understand what I mean? That
Hmm.
these guys now get involved with us because of our art. That's incredible, man. That's gonna save a lot of hungry people.
Yeah, but no, this is what I'm saying. I think we're living in an era where we've grown, you know, particularly me and you, we're in the same sort of age bracket, and we've grown up in an era of information where we've seen the communications and that, and I think we're slowly progressing into an era of the creative, because at the moment this is one of the things I talk about. There's a lot of technology and there's a lot of, but unless we start to focus on the creative, and unless we dissolve the barriers that can do this, you know,
Yeah,
this is where the great ideas are born, and this is one of the things that you'll find is it goes back to when we keep reflecting around cities. But one of the things that I've always thought, where why did some, you know, why did cities like Liverpool and you know, other cities and that, why did so much musicians and that comes from it? And it's all because, and it stems down to the same thing that we've spoken about, but it's the ability that these musicians who all knew each other would have been sat in bars, in pubs, speaking to each other, the artist, the author, the musician, maybe an engineer, maybe a coalman. They all sat around and talked to ideas with no kind of barriers between them, and then bang, out comes this most massive explosion of creativity. And at the moment, I think we're going through the same thing again. And to speak upon what you were saying then, I think it's a fascinating thing. I think one of the reasons that there is this split between the rich and the poor, in the sense of what it is, I think the heart of all creativity, you need struggle. You need to be kicked in the balls and shoved in the gut. I really think that's, and I think that's one of the things, if you've grown up in this lovely environment where you've got everything paid for, and your life is like one of, you know, paradise and dreams, you're never going to get that inside you. I don't know what you feel about that.
that's it, man. I mean, what can you talk about if you don't know struggle that is going to be relevant to anyone else? Do you know what I mean? I can't start rapping about things and mansions and stuff like that because Joe down the road can't afford that. Do you know what I mean? And it won't resonate with people. It'll be good for a, and that's cool too. They're necessary to a certain degree, right? But Joe Bloggs isn't going to become a fan of me because of that. That's not going to resonate with him. He needs to hear stories of my struggle, and he'll go, oh man, I remember doing that too. Oh, I had one of them too. I remember listening to tracks on the radio and hitting play record on my little tape player. You know, I remember this, that, and the other. It's relevant because we went through it, and we're not alone in that struggle. But when we go through our struggle, we feel like we're alone in it. Do you understand what I mean? And it's almost like a relief to see artists that are bigger and broader coming from that struggle as well, because you don't feel alone in it anymore. And that's how you resonate with people. So
Yeah,
that's what I tend to do. I tend to be very honest with what I talk about, just purely because I know that I'm not alone in it. I'm not going to be the first person to go through that struggle. I won't be the last person to go through the struggle.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, this sort of ties back to, and we kind of strayed away from it a bit. But you mentioned obviously you grew up in Southampton. What point did you sort of go from, like you said, you like music, and you thought, okay, where start to write the lyrics? Was it in music that you started to sort of shape this, or was it in writing poetry and then came the music? I mean, how did tell me about that whole, where it sort of went from an idea into actually forming into putting something down on where people could listen to.
Okay, so what happened is I say I fell in love with hip hop music through Warren G, listening to him. But we used to have a youth centre in Southampton called the Zone, right? And at the time, everyone was heavily into garage music. Now, old garage music, right? Old garage music would have a few instrumental tracks dotted along the tapes, right? That have sections of instrumental. So what we used to do is get the tape to that part, and then we'd start rapping over the instrumentals, like each other over the instrumental, like I'm the best, and blah blah blah, like that. And so I did it. Like I jumped into the sort of ciphers, and I was okay. I held my own, but I was like, no, do you know what? I need to be able to go in and kill these guys. Like I needed to go in with a fully loaded clip. Do you know what I mean? So literally that night I went home and I started writing, personals for each and every one of them. Next week we go back into the youth centre, and I'm there with my fully loaded sort of rhyme book ready to go. And one by one, I started shutting every single one of them down, just on personals, using rhymes. And I fell in love with the feeling. I fell in love with the fact that I could get a reaction just by being honest, and literally have people going crazy just for making the words rhyme and being honest with it. Saying some kid was fat, saying some kid had spots, but doing it in a really funny way, and just watching the crowd lose their mind. And that's why I fell in love with it, man. And then I took that and started to structure real songs, because I wanted to be an artist. I didn't want to be a battle rapper. I didn't want to be this, that, and the other. I wanted to be an artist. And so I was like, okay, we structured to Tupac, to Nas, to Daddy Kane, to Rakim. I really started studying the craft of hip hop and how they did it. How did they craft their rhymes? How did they formulate the verses into hook, into verse, into bridge? And what was the radio formula? How did these guys get onto radio? What makes a song popular, basically? So I studied the arts, and as ironic as it sounds, I'm actually coming to you right now live from the Dreadnought studio. Because it's all artists that I listened to as a kid that got me inspired to become an artist. So that's what I did, man. That's when I fell in love with the art.
I'm really glad that you actually, this is a reoccurring thing I get from speaking to many, many creative people, and I think it's lost in this wash of the age we live in, where everything is, we're told it's all about instant. All you got to do is just put an instant, smiley face on, or you have your moment on X Factor, or Britain's Got Talent. And what I liked about what you're speaking upon, and I hear it over and over again, and it's the same with me in the arts world. It's all about those hours of dedication. It's those grafty hours that nobody sees. It's those hours when you're in your room, scribbling away, crafting it. That this is what I think really is it needs to be raised upon and spoken upon in the age we live in, because we live in. I don't know how you find it in your circles, but I'm amazed by how many people I'm surrounded by, and they start on something, they hit that, which I'm sure you've met before. You hit that wall of resistance, and then everything else comes in, all the distractions, TV, pubs, girlfriends, you know what I mean? And it's pushing through that, and then, like you said, put in all those hours in, and you will. This is the point, and you spoke eloquently upon it. If you do put the hours in, you eventually get what you want to do. You can manifest your intent. If you put your intent out, you can manifest it. But this is a message that isn't really spoken about. I don't know how it is in your world, but I don't know if that's spoken upon in your circles. But in my world, it's not. It's all about instant. Do one painting, you'll be the instant painter, and you'll be famous, and all the rest of it. And it's not upon that. And I'm interested to see if that's true in your circle or your where you're around. Do you find that same mentality?
No, I'm fortunate enough. I mean, I'm in the studio right now with Conflict, because we're working on another project together, and literally everyone that I've been fortunate enough to gravitate around in Detroit, especially, they've all got their 10,000 hours in, and they see that I've got mine in as well, because that's the way they operate. I mean, my management has got me into room with the guys who paved the way for this generation of hip hop. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm in the studio with this guy, that guy. I'm not going to name drop because that's tacky, but I'm here with these guys, and I can see that they've put years into the craft, man. They're 10 years in. Do you know what I mean? And the only way I can get respect from them is show them I'm about this for real. Like, I've put my hours in. Do you know what I mean? What we're doing comes from a place of hard work, and struggle. Don't get it twisted. These guys have gone through the mill the same way as I have, and so they see it. Do you know what I mean? They see the struggle in me, and obviously they respect that I fight through it the same as they did.
Okay, well, you spoke upon it there. I mean, you mentioned you're in the studio right now. You mentioned with, like you say, some of the people you're working with. What's been the one thing that in your time around them, in this, working with these people, what's been the one thing you'll take away from it and go, oh, that's something I'm going to take away, and I'm always going to walk away with that in whatever projects I do? What's the greatest lesson you've learned from your short time working amongst these guys?
Honestly, the greatest lesson I've actually learned, and this was wrong. I wasn't wrong in my approach to music, because the methods that I use are the same methods they use. It's that by any means we're gonna get this done. By any means, nothing will get in the way. We're gonna plow right through it, And so to see people I consider legends, following the same methods that I use when creating music or when performing live and things like that, I know I'm on the right path.
Now that was something else I really wanted to sort of speak to talk to you about. I mean, your reflections on playing live, both in the UK and particularly in America. Now, I mentioned this in around the subject and what we've just been discussing all night, which is really the heart of free speech and be able to get what you say. Now, I've spoken to some comedians, and I've spoken to a couple of bands, particularly in America, that say that some of the venues they're now playing are asking for the set list before they go on, and they're going through the lines and they're saying some of the comedians and stuff that you can't talk about that, don't approach this. And now, have you found this in your experience of playing live and in the States at the moment, or is that just something that?
No, mate. Do you know what? I hate to make it sound like I've got, and I really don't. I go to venues and they know that I'm a certain, well respected artist in it. They're just like, no, you've got this guy's stamp of approval. Go on, do what you do. Do you know what I mean? And I'm so blessed to have that. I really am, because yes, I see the world's a very PC place. It's a very, you can't do that. It's now, and we've got to accept it because how it is. It's too big now. But thankfully, because of the respect the old heads have got, check that I get to go straight on in. But if I didn't earn their respect, it's almost like the way I put it. I can either earn respect at the door and have to do that at every venue, or go to the legends and earn their respect and know that I'm good in that city.
Yeah, exactly. So you're speaking upon. I mean, you got some tracks out now. You put a track out just a few days ago. I mean, you're playing some, you're playing some live show. What sort of what are your plans for the next sort of few months when you're in the States then?
To be honest, mate, I've got to go to Ohio in the next few days. We're playing at a festival out there in Ohio, so that's gonna be incredible. We're also shooting freestyle videos for the next 2 weeks that I'm here, with everyone that I've worked with or everyone that I'm affiliated with out here. Okay, so you're gonna see Conflict on there, from the Dreadnoughts. You're gonna see Des on there, that's Killer's DJ. You're gonna see a whole bunch of Arthur legends in the game. We're gonna try and reach out to our friends in Cincinnati as well. Because we've got good friends there and people who are still doing things to this day, like big producers that I've just been blessed to have been in the room with. Do you know what I mean? But no, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to do freestyle videos. We're going to upload that to our social media. And then the last day, we're going to live stream with all the artists that I've worked with. So we're going to live stream that across social media. And we're going to shoot that here in Detroit as well. So it's exciting, man. I'm looking forward to it.
That sounds fascinating, man. And for people over, listening over here in the UK, I mean, after you've done the States, is there any sort of plans to come back here and do some live dates back in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I'm back. I'm back in the UK on the 12th. The 13th of August. So in 2 weeks. I'm gonna see the family. Spend some time with the family for a week, and then I'm right back out stateside for the tour, mate. We've got the tour lined up, 14 cities. We're going to start off with just to warm everything up, and that's across America, really.
Oh man, that's going to be a fascinating experience. I mean, you sort of spoke upon them. And how have you found the audience in America? I mean, there's often, from somebody who's had never had that experience, but I have to admit, some of the bands I used to love were saying, "Oh, you hear every band come across here and they go, oh man, you English, you're the best audience in the world." And I've always wondered that it's just that there's that cliche. Or how have you found the audience you're playing in front of, especially being from the UK? I mean, are they giving it the whole, "Oh man, not another bloody limey," or what's the attitude towards you when you're at the live shows?
The crowd erupts. The crowd goes absolutely crazy over here. I can't explain it because you've got my music, thick British. That I don't like. I talk like I rap, and so they can understand every word. They do not miss a beat of what I'm saying in the music. So then it becomes a, oh, this guy can rap. Oh, and he's not even from here. Oh, okay. I then become a valuable commodity because I'm like, I'm different, but I'm just as good as their best. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm getting a lot of incredible feedback because of the fact that I'm British and I can string a couple of words together.
Now, one of the things that it's pretty noticeable from some of the images you've got as well, like and again, sort of an avenue I want to sort of explore you. You're heavily into tattoos, and you can see it from your arm there, and some of the images on your website and stuff. Now you're in the land. I know particularly New York has a very strong tattoo, sort of scene. Some of the greatest tattoo artists in currently in America. Is that something when you're over there doing particularly your tour of America? Is that something you're thinking of contemplating doing and getting some more, some ink done?
Do you know what, mate? My tattoo artist in England, they'll kill me for saying this because she's, shout out to Lauren. She did all of my tattoo work. And yeah, I mean, if I'm out here and I see something that I like, then I'll get it done for sure.
No, okay. I mean, particularly then, you mentioned again your tattoo artist over here. Now, does she do a lot of the freestyle or some of the images? I mean, this is one of the I'm fascinated about it because it's a real fascination from an artist's point of view. Will she come to you with an image, or will you say to her, "I want this," and then how does that process work? Because obviously you've got a personal relationship with her in that sense.
It's just like music. Art is art. So I go to her with the elements of what I want. So I'll go, I need this, but I need it like this. And I'll give her 5 or 6 different sorts of angles on it to be like, can we find a way of making this unique using these elements? And she never fails. She's done all my work so far. So, I'm pretty happy with the outcomes.
That's cool, man. I mean, one of the things that sort of relates to that really is, and I can't really sort of not finish this in this conversation. Maria was sort of bring this up. I was blown away by the first time I saw when the curtain falls. Now I love the visuals in it. I love everything about it. Now one of the things that particularly I wanted to ask you about, there's some very deep sort of strong lyrics in that, and I wanted to ask you where you filmed it. How did you, again, was that the idea of the visuals? Was that something you inspired, or was that something you worked upon when you're doing that? And equally, with that track and stuff like this, is this something you're hoping to do more and put more? I mean, you were sort of saying you're doing your short little flash ones, but are you got any plans in the works or any more kind of visual videos like? Because they're very strong videos you put out. So tell me more about the curtain falls, really.
Okay, so first of all, I've got to shout out my director, that's Simon Stallman from Hawks Media. He's the guy that actually shot the video. Now, I'd wanted to work with Simon for about a year prior to shooting When the Curtain Falls. I'd seen his work for other artists, and it was mind-blowing. Well, you see it. I mean, it looks like a movie. The way he shoots music videos like they were filmed, and that I love that. I love the how smooth that was. I loved, how well put together, how consciously, pieced together his work is. And so I linked up with Simon, and I was like, listen, I've got this track with Bazaar. We need to put visuals to it. I was like, Bazaar's given me his pieces. How can we make this look like a whole project? And it was actually shot in Reading. The video was shot in Reading, at an old abandoned manor house, and we had to climb fences and all the rest of it to get in there. Me in a suit as well, climbing fences, and yeah, no, the stage parts were theatre, and Simon knew the guy who ran the theatre, so he gave us the stage for a couple of hours to to get the shots we needed. And then we found old like house, somewhat a studio in someone's house, you know, but he hadn't used the room for ages, so there was dust everywhere, old cans there, blah blah blah, like that. And he was like, he was trying to clean up as we were shooting. I'm like, no mate, leave it, stop touching things, it's perfect. We need it to look like this, we need it to feel like this. It's the When the Curtain Falls symbolizes all the years we've been struggling to do this without getting the nod that we were good enough. Do you know what I mean? And so to finally get the nod now is incredible for me. And so we wanted it to be that struggle and tell that story of, you know, from Bizarre's point of view, it's almost like the decline for him of like, he's reminiscing about the good old days and missing proof. And that really hit home when he said that. I was like, wow, man, like that's gut-wrenchingly honest, you know. And then me, it's like going from something, losing everything, but being grateful because, do you know what I mean? I finally got clarity. And that's what I loved about the whole the concept of the song. It's not rags to riches, it's riches to rags.
Now, I mean, one of the things that kind of relates to that whole visual experience and that whole video you're talking about, and I don't know if this is something you've ever contemplated or you plan to explore in the future, but you've got a very cinematographic face. You know, you seemed almost born to be an actor. You know, you played the role really well, and I wonder if that's something you sort of plan to explore in the future, because there's some people I know from talking to a lot of musicians, and they don't like doing videos, and they do anything to hide their hair down or anything. But you seem to sort of just take up the whole frame and boss it in, for want of a better word. So is that something you plan to explore in the future?
Do you know what? In the industry that we're in, you can't rule anything out. You can't rule anything out. Art is art at the end of the day. You know, so if it presents itself, if the opportunity presents itself, I'll look over every project, and then I'll sit down with Lo and go, right, does this make sense? It's got to make sense for us to do anything. You know, if it doesn't make sense, whether it's artistically, whether it's, you know, scheduling, things like that, then, you know, we won't do it. But everything will be considered.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's amazing me. Like I always think there's a very great synergy. And I speak as someone who's, you know, I love film, and I do a lot of work with filmmakers, and again, it's just a synergy between, you know, Professor Green, some of these people who do great work in film, and I'm again, I mean, you've only got to listen to just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour of your music to sort of think, man, there's a story there. You know, if I put you in a room and we went, right, Hayze, we're not letting you out until we get a film written, it would be a hell of a film. And that I think it's something that I can definitely sort of see in a few years' time that's going to sort of, you know, bloom you know, within yourself, because I think there's something in there, man. I'm interested to see where that develops into.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I say, art is art. So, you know, if you need me to write a song, I tend to write songs like a storyteller. I tell stories in my. So then it's just about, you know, how can we turn this story, and how can we make this story in this format over here? You know, how can we translate from When the Curtain Falls, a movie that embodies that whole, you know, riches to rags struggle. Mm-hmm. How can we make that an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes? And you know, we'll be able to figure it out. Of course, we can do anything, mate. We can do anything as long as we're given the creative space and the time.
Yeah, and I think this sort of speaks upon what maybe the whole sort of theme of this conversation, really. I think that musicians, creative people, I've never had a conversation yet with any creative person whose desire is money, or it's not that drives us. All we want is the time the space just to be able to create. You know, you'll love it. I mean, that's the point. If I could say to you, I'll swap your experience right now, Hayze, and I'll drop $10 million in your bank account, or you can have what you're doing now, sitting in the studio, and you're going to go out, and you wouldn't swap for the money ever. And this is the thing, and that's what I love about the times we're coming in. We're coming into a times where we can start to not break these middlemen down, break the things down where people can directly fund and source and stuff like this. And
direct to consumer, that's where it's going now. You know, and I know a lot of independent artists that are living well off it now, and finally getting the recognition and the numbers that they deserve. And independent, they're looking at it like, actually, you know, this guy in the middle taking 40%. You're not needed. You're not unnecessary. You know, thanks to the way the world is now, and thanks to technology, which is a great thing. It's a great thing. Obviously, I've got nothing but, you know, I've got nothing but respect for the majors and what they, you know, they've built the right to be where they are. You know, because every major started off as something small. You know, but it's the time, it's the age of the independence now, I think.
It is completely, and this is where, you know, I don't want to sort of speak about it too much, but what we're seeing with the different decentralized technologies going on, particularly, and that's where we step in. I'm building N99. It's to sort of fill that void of sort of saying, yeah, like you said, in a paradigm where there's no middlemen, we just feed people directly. And what I love about this is what I love about what's coming on a daily basis, bombarded from every angle. We're finding more and more ways of just directly feeding you. You know, like, so if I like your music or I like what you're doing, I can come up to you and go, there you go, that's the 20 quid I want you to go in your pocket. Because at the moment we live in a world where if I do want to reward you as an artist, by the time I think, okay, I've got 20 quid here, I know by the time you're going to get, you maybe get what, five quid of that, nothing much. And what I love is we're finding different ways of just plugging into. And this is one of the things I wanted to speak to you upon. Have you considered in your, I mean, I spoke to you know, to Low Vision about this, and I've spoken to him about it long and hard. Have you considered putting up a you know, a cryptocurrency wallet so people can, you know, direct, you know, give you Bitcoin or some of these other cryptocurrencies? Because there's a lot of people in that world, you know, would love to sort of tap into that. So I wonder if that's something you've thought about or explored.
To be honest, I think obviously Bitcoin's only really surfacing in the mainstream view recently. It's because it's been around for a long old time. It's been around for a long old time, but like mainstream people are only now starting to look at it as, okay, this is an actual currency. This is a currency to be taken serious now. We may get into that as we progress. I mean, if I can buy my kid clothes with Bitcoin, then what's the difference between a pound coin? You know, except the values and the exchanges and blah like that. But what's the difference if it's putting food on my family's table?
Exactly.
What's the difference? You know, that would be like, as you know, from a marketing and a business standpoint. Oh well, why do I want yen? Or why do I want Deutschmarks? Or why do I want euros? They're not pound. No, it's still currency. It's still exchangeable for services or products. So if it's a recognized currency, then why wouldn't I accept it?
Exactly, and I think this is, like you spoke of them, because I think this is one of the things that, again, it's really, I think really needs to be highlighted in this world. But we focus upon, we're not focused upon money. We're focused upon, just give us the freedom to do what you want. All you want to be able to do is just create. All I want to do is just be able to paint. And like you said, there's a great line in and forgive me if I'm not getting word for word, but you mentioned in the again, goes back to the track When the Curtain Falls. You mentioned about, and again, if it's, I apologize ahead if it's not word for word, but you mentioned about the phrase about, you know, karma's that bitch and she'll come back for your rent. And it's so true, because it doesn't matter about, all I care about is, like, I just want to do that. And it's those things that put me off what I'm doing, thinking, oh shit, I've got to pay my rent, or I've got to pay this, and I've got a bill to pay. And it's true. If we can, I'm not focused on about having a dollars in my bank account, but I'm focused on, oh, can I have the freedom and the space? And I know it's something you spoke upon, but
It's kind of like we live in a world. We live in a world now where, you know, our freedom our freedom is determined by, first and foremost, how much our rent and rates are, and our amenities. Okay, so you know, if you want any sort of a life, then you best save. I mean, you know, we don't have the freedoms nowadays to live these vicarious lives, because that rent is still due, and you best make sure you got that rent. That's paramount. You know what I mean? So even as creatives, we've got to make sure that that rent is there. You know, whether that's a 9 to 5 job, which stems your creativity, or you're on the road, which means you're never at the house that you're bloody paying for anyway.
Mm.
Stay in the house that you've got to find the rent for anyway. So it's kind of a catch-22 as you know, as being an artist.
Yeah, you're right, and but at the end of the day, I think what drives us, you know, I think this is. I mean, you mentioned then is one of the fascinating, and I think one of the things I love about being an artist, there is no set rules. Like you said, everything we come down to is kind of like, okay, if anybody could bottle what creativity was, they would be the ultimate, you know, the bad guy with the big moustache and be sitting there with billions in their account. And that's the point. We need resistance, so we don't. So we're almost like water. We want to be comfortable, but not too comfortable. We want to be this, but not that. And that's the hard life of being a creative. We've got to be in this water fluid state, no?
Yeah, of course. You need some degree of struggle, you know. And I say this, you know, I've sat at tables with millionaires. I've sat at tables with poor people, and all I could tell you for certain is beans on toast is still my favorite food. That's as easy as it is. You know, and I've seen both ends of the scale, and I've lived poor, and I've been offered things from like rich investors that wanted to do this, that, and the other for me. And beans on toast is still my favorite food, and you can't impress me with steak and all this fancy stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because I come from a place where we value every penny, so that doesn't impress me. Do you know what I mean? What will impress me is being able to buy my mum a house off the back of what I do. That's what I want to do. I want to buy my mum a house and make sure my family are comfortable. Do you know what I mean? And until I get there, all this fancy talk and all this we can do this suit and tie business doesn't hold weight with me. I'd rather see you do something. Don't speak about it.
Yep.
You know, and that's the case of being an artist. You know, and this is no disrespect to anyone who's on the business end of it. But a lot of artists get promised a lot of things from people that never deliver. You know, on the business end, I've countless times people have come up to me going, "Oh, you're incredible. I want to do this for you. I want to do that for you." But you never hear. Do you know what I mean? But that's the business of it, man. People get swept up in my stage shows. They see it, they get on my energy, they get on my wavelength, and they have an incredible time. But I'm so used to being promised this, that, and the other, that I'm like, that's cool, man, whatever. Just, you know, let me know when you want me there to do that thing, or let me know when I'm needed for this thing here. Don't tell me about it, don't jazz it up. Just tell me what it is and tell me when we're doing it. Show and prove.
Yeah. Like you say, man, and you know the thing about it is, and as much as you know, you could almost take some of those words that we've been speaking about, and it almost you could take little sections of it, take it out of context, and go, oh, it's not even worth trying. But the thing is, and I'm sure you can, you know, you'll verify this, but I found is that it's the battle of what you're doing. It's the action, like you said, the doing. That's the best bit of it. It's almost like I don't care about wins or losses. It's just every day I've got another day when I'm getting up and going, this is it. I'm doing it myself. And it's almost like you get to a point where you don't count the battles and the losses and the wins. You just think, am I doing something? Am I fulfilling my human potential to the maximum on this moment that I'm living right now? And that's how I look at it.
Oh, totally, mate, totally. Do you know what? I heard the other day, I was sat in a coffee shop with Lo. We were just, drinking and sorting out. I think we were sorting out net videos to upload to the social medias. And I heard a rapper being interviewed. I didn't butt into the interview to find out. Answer and said, best part about being a rapper, standard interview question. What's the worst part of being a rapper? And do you know what the guy said? Writing the raps. I couldn't believe it. And why writing the rhymes is the reason you don't like being a rapper, then you need a 9-to-5, because this really isn't the life for you. You know what I mean? I was like, that is your take on the whole art of being a rapper.
Yeah. Well, man, look, I mean, I don't know if you're too aware, but there seems to be a real sort of breakdown in the communication and the sort of the link we're having. And to be honest, I've kept you an hour and you're in the studio, man. So I'd love to pick this up again at some point, maybe when you're back in the UK and we can, have like I say, any time the door's open. But just to sort of like give before we do wrap this up, where can people reach out to you? Where can they contact you? Where can they find you?
Okay, so if any of this wanna hit me up and ask questions, my Twitter is official Hayze. That's at official HAYZE. The Facebook page where all of my net videos are being uploaded, and you can follow my journey in Detroit and eventually watch the show. With just go on, yeah. And you can stay up to date with me through both of their mediums.
Fantastic. And this year, I want to sort of, I've just had a quick little message sent to me. You mentioned the festival in Ohio. What date is that, and whereabouts?
I believe that is 6th, Ohio. This has got all the thing is, and interviews and bits and bobs like that, because as I said, my tone is so unique that these guys can hear what I'm saying, but I'm not from here. So I become some sort of attraction to them as it is. So we're getting calls for shows and this, that, and the other every day. So I'm like, just you deal with that. I'll just get on the stage and perform. But I do know it's on the 6th.
Well, perfect, man. And like I said, it's been an absolute, insightful conversation. And I thank you for giving me your time, because, like I say, I know you're there in the studio, and to give me an hour of your time has been absolutely, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to finish, I played out the other day when we did our short conversation, but I want to finish with just playing out when the curtain falls. And we spoke upon it, quickly in this conversation, but, like I say, it's one of the tunes that I don't know, I almost become playing it on a daily basis. It's a really inspiring track. So just from one creative soul to another creative soul, man, thank you very much. Well, before we do go, I just wanted to say thank you for your time, and from here in Scotland and all over, enjoy your shows, man. And I'm going to say is this is Life is People. So while this tune is up, man, I say thank you very much, and life is people.
Yeah, man, no worries. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
No, it's like I say, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the UK, dude.
That's how shit go, man.
We used to have the world. You must tell them what I must see.
Running real fast, I'm in a hurry. In my life, I made a lot of mistakes. I got a lot of love, but I got a lot of hate. I'm nervous, I can't stay still. About 2 seconds for popping another pill. They say family got your back. But I say fuck that, family to stab you in the back. My grandfather, he ain't answering the door. I guess I can't stay there no more. I miss proof, I miss my group, I'm scared to shoot. Detour for life, and nigga, that's the truth. Little girl said daddy's never around. He's doing shows, he's in and out of town. Let her fall off the cliff where nobody cares. It's off the D12. Keep me in your prayers. I'm gone.
Stand innovation, round of applause. You leave me battered and bruised, but still I beg you for more. And keep me dazed and confused while you consume all my thoughts. Who knew the second I fell off, you show me the door. No more arena tours, phone calls, well as run dry. Man, even texts that I sent to my friends get no reply. It's like I'm being blackballed by the sport that I helped to shake. Karma's knocking at the door, looking for that rent to pay. It's funny to think about the days I locked myself away. I never wanted fame, just an avenue to vent my hate. I didn't realize that rap music would facilitate to hit the airwaves, and so the masses tried to imitate. Fuck me, they must have seen me like a god on earth. Underestimated the impact that I could have with words. Felt like everyone was on my level when I spat a verse. Little did I know the popularity could be a curse. Worse was the media, the constant with the badgering and every one night stand. I Kim Kardashian, another sex scandal. I no longer get embarrassed, but I feel for my son who's got to deal with the madness. Then it's just one pitfall after the other. Got him dragging up my past, the broken fun out of my brother. Not to mention all the drama with your alcoholic mother, and the fact your father left you should be clear he doesn't love you. What I wouldn't give to live a single day out of this hot seat. Back to the start of the verse, that's when they dropped me, got me penniless, broken and scarred, laying in the gutter, but I finally see the stars. So stand innovation, round of applause. You leave me battered and bruised, and I don't want you no more. No longer dazed and confused and in control of my thoughts. Just take a bow and say thank you, then let the curtain fall.